All right, 2 minutes. Everybody,
I'll let you know now.
we won that in your list.
Narrative tonight.
Yes.
I'm assuming so. There's Sunday. Shady sides of the area.
Just
Right next to.
Yeah.
Did you check to make sure you have it? Both of them? Both of them?
Got everything up? Yeah. Miss Riley gave you the rundown? All right. You guys have your, it was called the pre-meeting to the meeting. Yeah. You'll be fine, you'll do good. Maybe this first time.
Flag is there. Just making sure. Always got to see where the flag is.
We John just told her this day.
Oh, okay, good. You get the rundown?
Yes.
Like to be stressing me. Almost.
I know it's right here. I think the glare.
Pretty close. Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Mr. Colavito, will you take the roll, please?
Ms. Driver,
Not here.
Ms. Genovese,
Here.
Ms. Grillo,
Present.
Mr. Herbert. Here. Ms. Linthorst,
Here.
Mr. Mason. Present. Mr. Resnick.
Here.
Mr. Sawicki.
Here.
Ms. Williams Galliano.
Present.
We do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Hopewell Valley Regional Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof communicated to the Hopewell Valley News and the Times on January 5th, 2022. This meeting notice was also sent to Comcast Cable and Verizon Fios. The board reserves the right to enter into executive session during all meetings of the Board of Education. The meeting is being recorded for the purpose of board review, future reference, preparation of the minutes, and viewing on YouTube Bulldog TV and the school district website, www.hvrsd.org. Will you please join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will request a motion that the board approve the minutes from the following meetings, the regular and closed minutes on August 22nd of 2022.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Motion carries. I believe now we're going to invite Principal Riley up to the podium to introduce our new Central High School student representative to the board.
Good evening, and thank you so much for having me this evening. I am extraordinarily excited to introduce Angela Choi as the new student representative to the Board of Education. Angela is amazing in a number of ways. She's incredibly talented academically. She's taking 4 APs this year. She is talented musically. She plays over 5 instruments, and she's an incredible singer who you may have heard singing the national anthem at several of our sports events, including the Staff versus Police charity softball game last year. She is a talented crocheter and sewer in addition. And really, most importantly, she is just fundamentally a good person. She's very active in our Unified Club. She walks around with that smile all the time. And I am really excited to hear about everything that she's going to bring to this role this year. So, welcome, Angela.
Thank you for being with us, Angela. We are so pleased to have you here with us. And we actually have some really exciting opportunities, events that are going to be coming up regarding the way that we kind of try to communicate to the students and make them feel that they can communicate back with us here at the board. So maybe we'll be bringing up that up more during our community relations portion of the meeting. So we look forward to working with you.
Thank you so
for
much.
being here. Did you have a report for us this evening?
Yes, I
Please
do.
proceed. Thank you so much.
Good evening. This month, the Student Council is focusing their efforts on the homecoming dance, which will occur at the high school on Saturday, September 24th. During the week leading up to the dance, all grades will be participating in Spirit Week. The pep rally will take place at the turf field on September 23rd. This year, the homecoming court will be presented to the student body at the pep rally and will be crowned at the dance. Students are certainly excited to resume Hopewell's traditional homecoming activities. Attendance will be kept for both Spirit Week and Homecoming as two events for the 2022-2023 Bulldog Cup competition. The Bulldog Cup is a new competition being held at our school. The Cup consists of two teams, the freshman class and junior class being one team, while the sophomores and seniors are teamed up to compete. This competition will certainly increase participation in school spirit and activities as freshmen look forward to beating the seniors and vice versa. The start of fall sports has excited many members of our district. Many students have attended games for the football team, marching black and gold, soccer, and other sports in order to show support for our fall athletics. Additionally, there will be a new group in the school called the Student Administrator Action Committee. Students a part of this organization will be incorporating a larger role in the government component of Student Council by meeting with building administrators on the last Friday of each month to discuss the needs of the student body in order to articulate the concerns of all students. Thank you.
Thank you. Glad to hear about the democratic process in motion there. That's awesome. Yeah. And I didn't say it all that articulately at the beginning of the meeting, but that's what we're hopeful that we're going to promote what we do here at the board more and involve the student body more in the democratic process as well. And you can be the conduit for that. So we're so pleased that you're going to take on that role for us this year and report back with a first-person account from the basketball games as well, which will be awesome. Any questions for Angela? Okay, seeing none, we'll say thank you. You're welcome to join us, or if you need to go and do homework, you're welcome to do that too, but we're happy to have you as long as you can be here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I do not have much of a report this evening. I would just like to offer my thanks, and on behalf of the board, offer thanks for all of the start of the new year festivities, the school year festivities, and the first day, by all accounts, was a very successful day for everyone. Everyone got off to a good start. It went smoothly, and we have a lot of folks to thank for that, our administrators, our staff, our students, their families. Everyone really collaborated to make the first day very successful, so thank you for that. And I'll reserve the rest of my comments for the remainder of the meeting and pass to Dr. Treese for her report.
All right, thank you. Can everyone see my big head, my bun? Yeah, we can see, because I can move if I need to. Okay, so just quickly, we'll go to the first slide, Mr. Calavita. Some updates on COVID. There really haven't been any changes, but just a few reminders. As we start the year, masks are optional at this time. We are asking folks to remember to stay home if you're sick. Don't come to school if you're having any symptoms that resemble or look like COVID. Make sure that you're testing. If you are positive, please report that to the school nurse. We need that reporting for the local health departments. They are still tracking certain illnesses, respiratory illnesses, COVID being one of them. So whether you're a staff member or a student, we're asking that you report those positive cases to our nurses. Folks are still able to return after isolating for 5 days if they test positive. You mask the 5 days upon your return. And if you're a close contact, you've been near someone that has contracted COVID, it's a good idea that you also mask for 10 days and monitor your symptoms in the meantime. These are subject to change based on the guidance by the New Jersey Health Department and the New Jersey Department of Ed. But for right now, we are in a place where we're transitioning to living with COVID as we do other respiratory diseases. In addition to that, the same is true of Zooming. We are no longer offering Zooming for students or staff who have COVID. We're asking you to stay home, get better. We will catch you up when you return. Your homework and your assignments will be posted on OnCourse, and we will make sure that you do catch up. Now, if it seems to be something that's more long-term, we'll make arrangements so that teachers can check in and catch students up and keep them on track. But the focus really should be on getting well. So again, I wanted to echo the board president and the rest of the team here. I want to thank everyone for their hard work getting us back to school. We welcomed, 3,400 students, over 700 staff members, a good number of those hired over the summer. So thank you to the HR department and all of your hard work. Opening the 6 buildings and maintaining all the buildings and grounds. It was a heavy lift for our facilities and grounds folks, as of course things like to break right before school starts, and we ran around and fixed those things. We're transporting 2,600 kids plus, over that many kids, 76 bus runs. There is still lots of tweaking to be done, but we have those runs off and going. Technology in everyone's hands, and all of our platforms and everything are up and running. Lunch is returned back to normal. Professional development provided to our staff. All this has happened in just 2 weeks, and we've rolled out a new schedule at TMS. So I want to thank all of our staff, support staff, for all of their hard work in the last 2 weeks. We're just now entering the next full week of school, and it's really been an effort that everyone's put in on. So I thank everyone, including my administrative staff, for that. At this time of year, we always like to share our goals for the year. So today, I'm going to quickly go through what our goals are that we're working on as a district and at the school-based level, starting with our mission statement. So here is just a bit of our mission statement. It's also on the wall there behind us. This is something we want to revisit this year as a community. So we will be sending out to the community an opportunity for you to weigh in on, is this still ringing true to us? Do we need to deepen some of the concepts in this mission statement, or is it up for revision? And I'm looking for all of the community to offer their input on this. So in my biweekly, I'm going to be doing a biweekly update moving forward this year. I'm going to be putting out some information on how you can get involved in helping us work on our mission statement and see if this is still holding true for us, or do we need to revise it. Under equity, our goals are here. These are the committees of the board that will be working on these collaboratively with our school leadership, creating growth opportunities and experience for our staff, students, and the community. So through providing professional development for our staff, still providing those community forums. So when we have a lot of these professional developments around literacy, we also offer community updates at night where the community can also learn alongside the staff and students. Revisiting our hiring practices, trying to recruit a diverse faculty, trying to recruit any faculty, because right now the pipeline is really, really shrinking. We're working very closely with the colleges to see if we can start building programs where we start getting students in high school interested in education in some of these fields in public education and in the support realms before they even leave high school, because we're really struggling. Not many folks are entering the profession as they were. Educating our students and staff and the community on how they can increase their civic participation in the school district at the student level, at the community level, as a caregiver or parent. President Linthorst alluded to some of the work that we plan on doing with our students in particular to try to get them to bring their voice and their concerns to the board as well, because they should be speaking out and bringing those concerns, which we know that they don't have a problem doing, but we want to encourage them to do even more of that in the future. Developing a curriculum statement. Dr. Plitzitz will be working with the supervisors and the DEI committee with that. And then we already talked about revising our mission statement. For students, staff, and wellness, this is still a big focus of the district. Folks are still struggling with mental health coming out of the pandemic. So implementing restorative practices for our student management at the high school and the middle school. This has been on our plate for a long time. Couldn't get it out of the gates in the last 2 years, but we definitely want to do that, moving away from being so punitive in the way we address discipline with students, and doing more restorative practices. And one of those things is even revisiting this year our drug policy and alcohol policy so that it's not so punitive and we're really getting the help that the students need to them. Suspending them and having them home is not the answer when somebody's struggling with a substance abuse problem. So we're going to be looking at how we're practicing how our practice is in our school district moving forward at the secondary level. Expanding counseling groups for our students and parents, specifically to those grieving caregivers and students. Just this week, we lost another parent here in the district. And this is something that we think that we need to support the spouses that are left behind and also our students that are struggling with that grief. Increasing our student contact with our CST and counseling team, tracking trends of why they're visiting our counseling office so that we can get help in certain categories. Again, this will be confidential data, but if we find that we have a lot of students visiting for certain reasons, maybe targeting that help and making sure that we're getting the right help to the right people. We're going to continue to use our Rutgers behavioral health counselor. We have another year with this person, and if we see a need based on the data, we're going to look at how we're going to budget for that person moving forward, because right now we're using ESSER funds to support that extra staff person. Expanding our awareness of what wellness services are available to the community and our students. Professional development on forming relationships and positive learning environments. We will be sharing the data from the attitudes and behavior survey we gave our 6th through 12th graders last year, and we were kind of surprised at some of the data, especially from the students and how they felt their relationships were with adults in not just the school, but in the community. And they really kind of felt that that the adults' view of young people wasn't as positive as we would like it to be. So we really want to do some work on strengthening those relationships. I know Zoom didn't help. I know that being home and in and out for remote learning didn't help. So now is the time for us to really get back to basics and really meet our students where they are and get to know each other so that they're willing to take those intellectual risks in the classroom. And then finally, there will be opportunities in each one of these for the community to give us your feedback in our survey, which we do need to get online. We do have our survey available, but also we'll be reaching out asking for your feedback on these things during the course of the year. Teaching to mastery. We are going to be looking at revising some of our policies, specifically our grading practices, making sure they're uniform between departments. I'm looking at Dr. Plitz's because that's something that I want done. We want those to be the same and not having to, need to try to figure out some maze of different ways that we're grading. Also eliminating weighting on honors and AP. I don't know if we'll accomplish that this year, but we're going to keep visiting that. We need to make sure any changes we make in that area do not affect our students' ability to apply to college and to be accepted to where they want to go. We need to revise our homework policy, which is a little too long for my liking, and that's something that we're going to revisit this year as well, and have an ad hoc committee where we'll have parents and students weigh in on that. And then finally, looking at ways that we can help to strengthen the formal and informal interaction we have with the community and our students and how they impact policy and how we form policy and shape policy. There has been a tenor in this country and sort of in our board meetings where it's been combative, and we really want to move away from that. We definitely need to make sure everyone's voices are heard. We have mandates that are put upon us by the state and that we have to cover. And coming to a sweet spot where there's balance and everyone's getting what they need, and we're also meeting the requirements of the state. We need to do that as a collective, and we're going to work on ways of shaping that we do it in a collaborative way, in a positive way, as partners. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we move forward. Safety and security. After last year in Texas and some things that have happened in the public community, we are very much spending time on our safety and security. We do have to conduct drills every year. Ms. Smith will be reporting out on those drills in our HIB reports and all of those things we have to do for the state. But one of the things that we have done in the past that we haven't done since COVID is run a tabletop. And this is where the chief of police comes in, and they put us through a drill that they don't tell us about ahead of time. And then they see how we react. The first responders come and participate in this as well, so that we can check on response time. We can see where the gaps and the holes are in our policies and our protocols. This year, we're hoping to bring that back. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be an active shooter. It hasn't been. Sometimes it's just a traditional lockdown. Sometimes it's a hazardous waste in a hallway. They really make the call on what the drill is. They don't tell us ahead of time. And then we're to react as if it's a normal drill and see how everyone responds in real time. We've gotten a lot of good information from these drills. This will be advertised ahead of time so that parents are aware, they'll know. And if we have active shooter drills or any drills like that, you will know ahead of time of when those are, and so that when you get these messages and when we're testing these things, it's not going to be alarming to you or your child. Now, we have gotten some emails and some concerns about parents that don't want their kids to go through active shooter drills. Any of these drills that are mandated by the state, students who are in our building have to go through those drills. And sometimes the state may come in and put us into a lockdown and send us into a drill, and we just have to comply. And those are unannounced. So if your child's in school, they have to be part of the drills. If we announce an active shooter drill, well, we will, ahead of time, and you would like to keep your child home because you're worried about that, you're more than welcome to do so. Call and report the child out and say you're keeping them home, and then we'll excuse the absence. But if they're in school, they will participate in that drill. That's not something we can exempt them from. So in addition to that, we are going to have informal sessions in the buildings, and also some sessions with the community. We can't let you know all of the secrets of our protocols, but we will teach you basically some of the things that we teach students and things that really can help you as a community member or anyone when you're anywhere. Because we know these things happen in concerts and movie theaters and shopping malls. There are safety skills that you can pick up that you can use in your own life that will be helpful. Implementing our new communication system that we learned we had some glitches we needed to fix, and we should have that close to having all the equipment in, right, Dr. Patel? We're close. And opportunities, again, for you to offer us feedback along the way. Our green sustainability efforts, some of our students came to us with a very lengthy strategic plan. We are going to have an ad hoc group that is going to come up with a plan that we can implement with measurable goals within a time frame that we think we can accomplish. And something that's, doing a cost-benefit analysis of some of the recommendations, but there are things that we know we need to do, like having more green transportation. That may take some time for us to get there, and making sure that, we are being more sustainable in our practices in our school buildings. So we will be working on that this year as well, in addition to coming up with clear action steps on how we're going to reduce the district's carbon footprint along the way. And then finally, continuing to plan strategically in the budget process to make sure that we're informing you along the way on how we're planning for our spending for the next school year, giving quarterly updates on expenditures in our finance and facility. We'll continue doing that, and any big spending ticket items that we have coming up. Like, for example, we talked about the turf fields. Dr. Plitzes will be talking about curriculum and instruction this evening to make you aware of how these decisions are being made and helping include the community in the thought process behind some of those decisions. And then again, continuing to have long-term plans for facilities issues we have and for those that are emergent. And then finally, this calendar probably will be tweaked, but here's a rough calendar of our budget process this year. Okay, so any questions from the board about anything in my presentation? Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Treese. We appreciate it. Board members were intricately involved in those conversations. I guess that's why we're not hearing any questions. So we will move on to our budget presentation, and we'll ask Assistant Superintendent Dr. Vicki Politzis to provide that for us, please.
Hello, everybody. Next slide. Having a little tech. Okay. So this is just an overview of the Curriculum and Instruction Office. But the three major things that we focus on in CNI are professional development, curriculum development, and grant funds. And I'm going to talk about them in more depth in the coming slides. This is just a flow chart of the CNI offices. So we have the various supervisors and directors by discipline. So in terms of curriculum development, we transitioned to a 7-year plan for curriculum development and revision. This will make it easy for us to identify by department a schedule of curriculum rewrites, along with provide revisions to certain disciplines in a timely manner. This list just highlights some of the initiatives that we worked on last year and are continuing this year, new initiatives. These are both district and state initiated, and some of them include transitional programs that we ran this summer, including the Summer Bridge, tip support, and the K-8 summer school offerings. Throughout the course of the year, CNI oversee professional development opportunities. Many of these offerings are led by supervisors, teachers, and other administrators. We've brought in a few consultants to work with staff throughout these workshops as well. Part of the role of CNI is to serve as a liaison between the local universities. And so we are part of different professional networks with TCNJ, Rider, and Princeton. There are various grants that we work on throughout the course of the year, including the ESSA funds and then the ARP-ESSER funds, which were put in place due to the COVID. These are the three areas that curriculum and instruction are going to focus on during this course of the year. So as Dr. Tree said, we're going to be looking at social emotional learning, looking at assessment data, which will tie nicely to my next report on the achievement report, and just exploring more of this inclusivity about bringing in diverse perspectives and diverse teaching pedagogy. These are some additional explorations we have this year. We are rolling out a new K-5 math program. It's a soft rollout, so not all of the teachers are teaching it this year, but the majority are. Also, we are rolling out a new EA program at the elementary, and we've had alignment in our curriculum to the new standards, including climate change, social studies, and wellness. We will also in January be subscribing to a Character Strong program, which is a character ed program that was recommended to us by the SEL committee. We are also going to have an elementary ELA program review and work with consultants in various genres, as you can see here. In terms of the fundings, our budget, we are over about $200,000 in supplies, and that is due to two major factors: the new math program, which is very expensive to roll out, as well as all of the additional curriculum writing that we had to do due to the state mandates and the new standards that were rolled out this year. For professional development, it's about the same as we were in previous years, and our ESSA funds, they did decrease slightly from last year.
Good questions. So these are actuals for this year.
Yes.
These are budgeted.
This year's
Budget.
These are this year's budget, not the actuals. Okay.
Any other questions on the budget? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Vicki, I had one question
Yeah, of
on one
course.
thing earlier. You mentioned like the 7-year development cycle, but Dr. Treese had mentioned, some challenges getting teachers in certain areas. And last meeting, we had talked about not being able to run certain sections and stuff because of limitations
Right.
of that type. Like, we're not looking at like, for some of those courses, like a 7-year period before we address it again, right?
No, we have
About an annual look at.
we have a 7-year plan of the rewriting process.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's just a way for us to organize what needs to be rewritten so that'll help us create the budget for the following year. So we'll say, okay, our next roll up for next year is we're going to focus on math writing, or we're going to focus on social studies. It's just a way for us to organize to make sure we're fiscally responsible.
Okay. And I guess the follow on then would be like, from that standpoint, on an annual basis, do we kind of look at where our curriculum is strategically and say, we're having some challenges finding teachers, we don't have the pipeline in this area. Not that we want to cut things, but if it's not looking good either, we have to figure out a mechanism to get ourselves staffed or we have to adjust.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if even on the plan, let's say next year we have Chinese to be rewritten, but we know we're not going to be able to staff that course, so we may have to drop that course, then we would just eliminate that from the rewrite.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's looked at it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. On the 200,000 overage, how are we addressing the overage?
Is $200,000 higher than I wanted it to be.
Oh, the budget is.
Yes.
Right. She's
Oh,
not
got it.
over budget, she's got her budget, but it's.
I understand.
It's 200,000
I know
over
we had
what we
talked about it
wanted.
before, but
Yeah.
I was thrown off by the.
And some of the funds that we did receive through the grants, we were able to pay for some of the things we may have covered with our normal budget, per se.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
This is a critical budget year for CNI because of the expiration of ESSA funds.
Right.
ESSER, and ARP, the three ESSERs, the 1, 2, and 3, they're gone. They're going to be expended by the end of this year, I believe. So we're going to have to think about what we want to keep and what we want to either restructure or shift. So,
So there are certain ongoing things that are being done with those funds.
correct. Yep. In large part, the mental health program that we're doing with Rutgers, it's in its second year, highly effective, and we're happy with it. How do we sustain it going forward if it becomes something we want to go with?
Any other questions for Dr. Politzis? Or Mr. Calavita? Okay. Seeing none, we will say thank you for kicking us off in our series of budget overviews, departmental overviews. And now you're going to move on to the assessment? Yes. Thank you. You're going to continue on for us.
Okay, welcome. All right, so I'm going to be presenting the achievement report. So this is, next slide. This is an overview of what we're going to be reviewing. We're going to be looking at the AP data as well as the SAT briefly, and then the NJ SLA assessment data from this spring. No, go back. Okay, so this presentation is situated around how Hopewell Valley students are performing on the AP exams as compared to other students in the country as well as in New Jersey. I chose to organize the presentation in this comparison format as those are the students that our students will be competing with in terms of college acceptances. So College Board offers 38 possible AP courses. The courses highlighted in yellow are the courses that are not offered at Hopewell Valley. So we currently offer about 70% of the possible College Board offerings. This slide compares the Hopewell Valley students' enrollment and amount of tests taking. So overall, 54% of Hopewell Valley students are enrolled in one or more AP classes as compared to the state at 36%. Hopewell Valley has 44% of their students taking at least one or more AP test as compared to the state at 29%. So colleges tend to only accept AP credit if students earn a 4 or 5. However, in a recent study published by College Board, it was found that students who earned a 1 or 2 on an AP test are more likely to enroll in a 4-year school, are more prepared in an intro college level course, and are more likely to take future AP tests and score higher. So the objective for our students is to prepare them to be at least a 4 or 5 score level, but students who don't earn those scores are still being exposed in preparation and experience. So I'd briefly like to talk about AP enrollment. Overall, this slide shows the most heavily prescribed to AP courses in our district. This accounts for about 50% of AP participation. So these 5 classes have been the top 5 prescribed to class courses over the last 5 years as compared to the nationally ranked enrollment. So it seems that our students tend to partake more in STEM courses as compared to the national data. This is the breakdown of this year's test taker demographics by percentage. So there was a slight decrease in representation from white students, but an increase in all other races. A closer analysis indicates that Asian, Hispanic, and 2+ races have a higher participation rate than expected, and this participation rate was similar to the 2021 AP test takers as well. This is just a comparison of student demographics by gender. Okay, so now just looking more closely at the trends. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We didn't have the national, for some of the national data for the demographics, but yeah. So it's mostly more females that are taking the AP. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So this graph compares the scores of students in New Jersey versus Hopewell Valley. So overall, our students far exceed performance as compared to the New Jersey averages. But as I was preparing this, we did not have the 2022 data available at the time.
I've just been joining.
Oh, okay. Right, so this is the 5-year breakdown for the district in regard to the number of test takers and score breakdowns. So it seems that we were trending towards more students sitting for assessments and courses, which was one of the goals of the district, to break down the barriers and have more open access. So that's good. But a decrease in scores. I believe it is, yeah.
Yeah, I think part of it too is like, you saw like a lot of our participation, one of the things is AP Physics 1.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that exam traditionally has had other exams have different weighting. That one tends to be weighted, like 2/3 of the students typically get 2s and 1s.
Yep, and the national average is always lower in that than in others. And that's one of our more populated courses, yeah. Okay, so the tests in the next few slides have at least 30 test takers and comprise about 65% of the exams at Hopewell Valley. So in AP stats, about 87% of our students score a 3 or higher as compared to the US, which is 60%, or New Jersey, which is 68%. So in addition, approximately 64% of our students achieved a 4 or higher in this subject. In AP US History, 76% of our students score a 3 or higher on the assessment as compared to 48% in the US. In US Government, 73% of our students earned a 3 or higher as compared to 49% in the US. That's pretty good. In AP Physics 1, 25% earned a 3 or higher at Hopewell Valley as compared to 42% in the US. As we were saying, historically students score the lowest on this exam, and we looked closer at the types of test questions that they scored lower in, and they seem to score the worst in the free response questions. In Calc AB, 54% of the students earned a 3 or higher as compared to 55% of the US. So in this case, our average is comparable to how other schools in the country have performed. In AP English Language, 95% of the students earned a 3 or higher as compared to 56% in the US and 67% in New Jersey. In AP Environmental, 97% of our students earned a 3 or higher as compared to 54% of the US and 59% in New Jersey. In AP Research, 91% of our students scored a 3 or higher as compared to 83% of the US and New Jersey. So the pattern of students scoring a 3 or higher for the remaining courses is consistent throughout the other 45% of the courses offered. The numbers in blue are the U.S. percentage of students who earn that score, while the numbers in black are the percentage of students at Hopewell Valley who earn that score. Those scores highlighted in yellow are courses that are not offered at Hopewell Valley. So students, even though we don't offer the course, they can still sit for the test. And so the next few slides just go through these tests that were not as heavily prescribed to as the previous ones I reviewed, but it's just still the same trends as our students earning a 3 or higher significantly more than in the country. You can just go through the next couple slides. All right, so in terms of goals, we want to continue, next slide, continue to allow for increased accessibility to AP classes. We want to enable and promote more students to take the exam, provide professional growth opportunities for our teachers, and also to take a closer look at the types of questions and content that students are struggling with and provide more opportunities for classroom exposure to those. So as I was mentioning for AP Physics 1, we identified that they're struggling with the free response questions to give those kids more experience in those types of questions during the course. All right, in terms of SAT comparison, overall, we have been staying pretty consistent for the last few years, so there's really been minimal changes in the average. On average, Hopewell students score about 52% or 52 points higher in ELA and 58 points higher in math as compared to those in the rest of the state. Okay, and then finally, for the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment Review, I'm going to be reviewing the scores for math and English, and these assessments were taken this past spring by students in grades 3 through 12. All right, so for ELA, this graph shows the same grade different students who earned a 4 or a 5 in the NJSLA by grade level. So as you can see, the students meeting or exceeding has decreased since the last administration in 2019. Conversely, this graph shows the same grade different students for the last 5 test administration for students who did not meet or only partially met the expectation. So you can see results are mixed, where some are trending upwards, like in grade 3, but others are trending down, like in grade 7. This slide shows the same cohort of students and how they performed in the most recent testing administration. So for example, you can see the 3rd grade students in 2019 were at 79% of meeting or exceeding expectation, while those same students in grade 6 were at 34% of meeting or exceeding. And so the non-cohort on the graph are the students that we don't have this both data points for. This slide shows the same cohort of students and how they performed in the most recent test. So again, you can see in 3rd grade, students in 2019 were at 9% of meeting or exceeding or partially meeting expectation, while those same students in grade 6 were at 20% of not meeting or only partially meeting. So in terms of math, this shows the same grade different students who earned a 4 or 5 on NJSLA by grade level. So you can see the students meeting or exceeding has decreased since the last administration in 2019, except for those in grades 8 or Algebra 1 at the middle school. So they were trending upwards. This graph shows the same grade different students for the last 5 test administration for students who did not meet or only partially met the expectation. So overall, there was been an increase in that number, except for those in grades 8 and Algebra 1. And then The graph shows the same cohort of students. So, for example, in 2019, 73% students in grade 3 were meeting or exceeding expectation, while those same students in grade 6 are now at 45%. And then finally, this slide shows the same cohort of students and how they performed in the most recent test. So you can see in third grade students in 2019 were at 3% of not meeting or partially meeting, while those same students in grade 6 were at 21% or not meeting and exceeding. So I know that was a lot of data at one time. So, but a couple trends to wrap it up is that in English, students were trending downward regardless of grade level. And then in math, certain grade levels were trending upward or there weren't a significant drop, such as grade 7 and grade 8. And then there were certain cohort of students who continuously did better. So they did well in the previous test administrators and they just continued to do well in the current one. And let me just say that I don't have the data from the state or how other districts in the state did. So we're really looking at this in isolation. I don't have a metric to compare our students to other students. Some suggestions to address learning gaps. So we've kind of 3 different avenues we're looking at addressing these gaps. So when you look at the data about addressing learning gaps, the research says that the most effective means of intervention is a one-on-one tutoring or working with students outside of school hours. So using grant funds, we hope to provide out-of-school support, such as the extended school year programming or other after-school supports. However, as I know we've been talking about a lot, and Dr. Treese mentioned, it is challenging to find staffing. So hopefully we'll be able to find staffing to support these after-school or out-of-school supports. However, that is a question mark. We also use the grant funds to purchase tools or platforms which help identify gaps of the students and to help provide remediation in those gaps. So some of the things we purchased were Lexia, which is an adaptive English platform, which we're putting into place in grades K-8, as well as HVRSD, which is a writing platform or tool that we can use, and iReady for math at the middle school. Finally, we are going to be taking a strong stance on data integration through pre and post data, as well as utilizing Linkit at the elementary level to develop profiles of students so that we can drill that down by standards to identify what standards the students are struggling with and then put in the remediations appropriately.
So, Dr. Polizzi, so the out of school, can you speak a little bit more about why the recommendation is out of school support?
Just, in the research, like I was reading like Brookings Institute, which is a pretty well-known, regarded, they have done studies on what is the most effective means or interventions for learning gaps, and they found that anything outside of the school, like, so whether it's one-on-one tutoring, whether it's like an after-school, like homework club, those types of things just seem to have the biggest effect on students' learning grades.
And not anything relative to restructuring the size of a class, or is it comparative to something in that realm, or?
If it did compare it, it wasn't in the article that it had compared that. But I think I'm just speculating. I'm just thinking that the more one-on-one or more individualized attention those kids are getting in those support systems are probably.
So maybe not, and I guess what I'm pointing to, I'll be straight about it, is that it's not necessarily that it's outside of the school support, but maybe the type of learning environment. So to that end, I know resources are an issue. And I'm also really present to, all the mental health concerns that we have about keeping our kids in school longer and giving them time to rest and play and be human kids. So I know what I'm saying is a challenge, but I really would love to see us do things within the day of school so that their end of day could be playing a sport, going to dance lessons, or going home and playing outside with their neighborhood friends. Because after school just extends their day. And I also know, it's hard to, I'm not taking a bus home, I have to stay and do this thing. It's just
No, and we try to integrate as much of as we can, like during recitation or flex time. I know last year we used some of our title funds at the elementary level where we had like a writing support teacher who would pull students from different classes, which the pre-post data was positive. So we definitely will utilize that when we can.
Vicki, one question I'm going to ask you is like one thing that comes pretty clear to me across looking at this data, the last data we have is pre-COVID, right? So first thing that jumped out to me was like, did we have we know we had some learning loss.
Right.
Right. I guess one question I'd ask too is, how much do you think not having the exams over those couple of years impacted this? I look at it and I say, well, SAT, in theory it was an aptitude test, but really it's an assessment of how well can you prepare and prepare to take that exam. And it takes practice. It's like it's like a sport, right? The more you practice, the better you get. So, I wonder whether, that's one of the skills we've lost over the last couple of years too, right? We've been taking tests differently in many ways.
Absolutely. And one thing I like about the iReady platform that we bought is that it some of the questions mimic how NJSLA would. Not that we're teaching to the test, but just so that the kids kind of get exposure to the style of the test. Exactly. Yeah.
So sometimes that idea of like teaching to the test has a bad connotation. That's actually a life skill. Like when you prepare to take an interview or something like that, you prepare for it. That's part of what you have to learn to do. Right.
Right.
So I had one other point I was going to make. If is it possible to go to slide 9?
Sure.
I just wanted to bring up, and I expressed this
Yeah, you
concern
did.
to you.
I think it was the demographic.
There was the
one, right?
demographics
No,
one.
the next one.
And-
Yep.
And the first concern I had was like, first, it would be good to show this against like our population demographics. It felt, I can still see though, the number of African-American students enrolled is lower than the demographic number. If anything, what concerned me more though, was that the participation rate was far lower than we have for many of our other students. So I'd say this, my one take back from this should be, I think the district needs to make a concerted effort to not only encourage our African-American students to challenge themselves to take AP courses, but also encourage them and provide the supports to have them feel confident that they can be successful taking the AP exams, right? Because like you said, it's not, even regardless of the score, going through the process has value.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, and we definitely, I know that, that has been a goal of the district, but we will continue on trying to promote that. Definitely.
Thank you.
So I have a whole bunch of questions, but I'll start. One of the things that kind of interested me when you were talking about the achievement drops, or the test result drops, whatever they are, during COVID. I mean, I was expecting certain drops, right? But it's interesting that in math, right, you have the grades 7 and 8 that did much better. Now, those tended to be the kids that spent a good portion of COVID in middle school, whereas everybody else that spent all of it in elementary school, right? And so, to me, that would be something to look into, whether it's just the fact, and we know that COVID was
Right.
harder for younger kids, right? Or the fact that, math is a fairly, I don't want to say rigid, but it's something that's very structured and things build on each other, right? And so because the elementary school kids were doing worse to begin with, right? It impacted math more there, but I would definitely, because that's an interesting one.
Yeah. And I also think too that, I mean, I'm speculating, but that, the students at the middle school had maybe more exposure of learning online, different platforms than the elementary students did, which I think could be one of the
Well, and
reasons,
I will throw one more thing out there. The students in middle school, even during COVID, had feedback on how they were doing in the sense that they were getting grades all the time, right?
True. Yeah.
We don't have grades in elementary school, and I understand why. And there are some good reasons why we went that way, right? But I'm wondering whether not having any kind of feedback during COVID went right from, because I know how difficult it was for the teachers to evaluate how the kids were doing, right? Not having that grading feedback mechanism in place also impacted them.
Yep. Alex, if I could just make one point.
Yeah.
I think the math 7 and 8 scores are actually a good news story because several years ago,
Yep.
you have to remember in the middle school, a lot of the students, let's say at the higher level, who are performing better, will take Algebra 1, will take Geometry, et cetera. And it tends to be the students who aren't performing as well who take math 7 and 8. Well, several years ago, Dr. Blitz came to the board. We identified that as an area in terms of our achievement scores that we were having a lot of trouble with. We put in the more personalized supports to those students back at that time. And I think you're starting
Yeah.
to see some of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think he's starting to find with the physics. We're finding some gaps in the math maybe.
Yeah.
Students that are waving in and not taking a certain level math before they're moving into that AP physics. So we have to look at filling
Some of the
those
prereqs,
gaps.
yeah.
Yes.
I was going for the comparisons where, and it's very nice to see how much better Hopewell Valley does than the rest of the state. But I would have wanted to see if it's possible to have a comparison with similar districts. I know at some point the state allocated us into a category, and I guess they stopped doing that, right?
Yeah, the I,
Because-
the D, the district.
Yeah, we were an I district,
Yeah.
A
Exist
to J, right? And of course, that would make it easier. But kind of see how we're doing with districts that are similar to us, right, would also be interesting.
I can definitely look, and I mean, right now, like this data just came out this summer, so we just have, the averages. But I don't know what will come out later on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, Bob, if you can go back to the list of the AP classes, for the.
And I think you're going. You want the list that we're off, like what are being
it's like
offered?
Slide 4.
Yeah.
All the way back, yeah.
There it is.
Sorry.
Yeah.
There you go. So just a couple of questions here. The first one is the non-highlighted, is that the tests that we offer, or is that the full list of courses?
Those are the courses that we offer.
Okay.
So the ones that
There's
are.
a couple here that I'm looking at, I was like, wow, that must be fairly new. Or they're not offered every year or something. Are they all offered every single year?
No.
Some of them are alternate. Okay, so some of them are alternate years. Okay, that is it. So then the only other question I had is the one, on the ones that are not offered, the one thing that's glaring at me is no economics offering, and I'm wondering whether there's a lack of interest in the district or we can't find the right.
The macro and the microeconomics. Yeah.
any.
Either, right, we
Either.
don't have any, because that is a fairly, I would imagine it would be a fairly popular subject.
Yeah.
Right, especially with the number of kids that want to pursue a career or college education in business, and we're not offering anything there, so I was gonna ask why.
I'm glad Principal Riley is here. But I kind of remember that we had looked at exploring, at offering these a few years ago, but it had to do with staffing.
Right, there's certification requirements for the AP exams, and so that was one of the limitations. of
Okay.
the economics.
Do we know if there would be the student interest if we try to find somebody, or?
We have students that certainly self-study.
this? Okay, so we do have kids who self-study and take the exam.
Yeah, we do. I mean, right now we had, in this past year, we had 4 kids take the macro and 1 kid take micro. So they're still
Well,
taking
that's
it.
a-
Yeah, and the 4 kids who took it, like 50% of them got a 5.
Okay.
That's good. So 2 of them.
Well,
Oh, good, but they didn't,
but
yeah.
to me, that indicates,
Yeah.
you know, if you have 5 kids that choose to self-study, there's probably at least 10 other kids who would have taken the course. Self-studying for an AP
It's-
is not an easy thing.
Yeah, no.
So, Vicki, I have a question. In terms of these suggestions to address learning gaps, are you hearing in your channels, or do you have any sense for whether or not we expect this to be a multi-year trend? In other words, you know, some of these subjects, as Alex was alluding to, build on each other. Do we think that we're still going to have to employ some of these solutions in the next year? And what types of grants are we using to pay for these supports now? Will we be able to support that in the future, should we need to?
So, for example, I do think it will take a few years to normalize. But like for Lexia, we purchased, which was a pretty pricey platform. We purchased, I believe it was a 2 to 3 year subscription, so we'll be able to cover that. Some of the other stuff that was only a yearly subscription, we're going to look at what we're currently offering and try to eliminate some of the things that maybe aren't as well implemented or not as readily implemented.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Vicki? No.
Oh, please, Jackie.
Yes. Yeah. Question about the self-regulated strategy development, the literacy. Yeah. Have we considered, because that type of support, it's shown to really help both students with learning disabilities and even students without really become great writers and really boost them. Have we thought about that as something for professional development across the board for our teachers? So like, how are we implementing?
So we're actually piloting it this year in special education. We have teams of collaborative teachers in the 4 elementary schools who are piloting it. We're going to just collect data and we're going to see how it works with our students. What we really loved about it when we researched it last year is that it's cross-curricular, and it also supports our language arts curriculum that's in place, which is the Readers and Writers Workshop. So we're excited about this because we think that it could be also a really great supplemental, not just for our students with special needs, but for all children.
Vicki, I'm sorry, and if you had gone through it before, I apologize.
No.
But in terms of the timeline, you had said that you have started looking. So have you been? Obviously, we've got the summary data here. You know, have we received like the more granular data going through particular topic areas? You know, of the different subjects that we are having challenges for on the NJSLA, so we can better identify. Okay, so we're going through that right now.
So the supervisors have the data where it breaks it down by standards, so you can see, you know, by grade level what standards the kids struggled with. So I know I was just talking to Amy Baskin, who's our ELA supervisor, and she was going through that, and we're going to work with the teachers to show them where the kids are, you know, where some gaps are, and just also to make like curricular changes based on those gaps. Okay. Yeah.
Any other questions for Dr. Belitsis? All right, well, seeing none, we'll say thank you so much for both reports. Thank you for sitting through our questions and enduring that, and we appreciate it. Lots of helpful information there. We will move into our first public comment session of the night. Members of the public are invited to address the board on any matter for a maximum of 3 minutes during this portion of the meeting. You are asked to state your name, address, and municipality. In response to your comments, the Board of Education may respond or direct the superintendent to do so. The board may also opt to take the matter up at a future meeting so that the matter is researched by the district administration. Public comment is now open.
Hi, good evening. Sylvia Kosas, 7 Wydell Drive, Pennington, New Jersey. And about 10 months ago, I came to a board meeting with a suggestion that the curriculum and instruction, syllabi, course curriculum, whatever name you want to use, be digitized on the school website so that parents and caregivers can, and community members can access those curriculums easily. And I just wondered if you could possibly, someone on the board or staff, give an update as to, is this being implemented and where do we stand? So just a couple of questions. What percentage of the K through 12 curriculum is available in digital form on the website? Which curriculum is health and wellness, language arts, social studies? Has that been prioritized? Do you have a priority for this? Who's been assigned the responsibility for this project and in what administrative department? And the time frame for completion of this project? And then the same thing for teacher training materials. I know there's going to be 4 staff development days, and it would be nice for the community to be able to know what those development days will be about, what curriculum is being used, what outside groups are coming in to do that, and all of that could be digitized. The agendas are digitized, and community members can access all of the information. So I'm just would like an update. It's been 10 months, and I would like to know where we stand. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kosis. Anyone else for public comment?
Good evening. Oh, that's loud. Sorry. Mark Peters, 83 West Prospect Street, Hopewell Borough, New Jersey. I've spoken with some of you over the past couple months. I wanted to come in and introduce myself. I'm going to be running for the open board position out of Hopewell Borough to be able to replace Ms. Grillo over there. I'm sorry? Yeah, I attempt to fill those shoes, right? Yeah. I just wanted to say hello, look forward to working with many of you. And I have 3 young kids in the district, so I'll be representing a lot of the elementary school children, 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. The 6-year-old just started first grade at Hopewell, and she's loving it so far, which is a positive sign. I also did some work years ago with Mr. Colavito with the defibrillator project in the district back when the law passed. Yeah, so have a lot of intimate knowledge about the district. So look forward to working with many of you, and I'll stick around a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peters, and thanks for your service, future service. Anyone else for public comment? All right, seeing no one, public comment is now, oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Trees, did you want to address some of the concerns?
Dr. Fritz, do you mind providing a quick update about what?
So in regards to the course overviews for the curriculum, we're in the process of digitizing them. We wanted to wait until after the summer because there was a lot of curriculum being rewritten during the summer. So we will have everything posted by October 1st.
And just to respond to some of your questions, supervisors are helping Dr. Plitzis to make sure those course overviews are on the website for all subjects for the grade levels. We're starting with the base grades, not the electives, but certainly social studies, language arts, math, all of that will be up there.
Also for our subject, so for biology, we have 3 levels. We're just going to do the first level or the college prep level, just to make it easy to begin with, because there is a ton of curriculum that we're trying to post online, and it's time consuming.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you for your efforts, and I know that you're working hard on that. And then finally, there was a quick question about PD. We don't generally put out a list of PD opportunities for our teachers and staff. There's extensive PD that goes out for all members and facets of our staff that are specific to their skills, like safety care training. The nurses may be trained in something, our counselors may be trained in something. So those are not lists that we put out. But generally, if we're doing anything around racial literacy or anything like that, like when we brought in those presenters in the past, we do present those things to the public as well, and we put that out there, those groups that we bring in. But you want to talk a little bit about what's going to happen on October 10th? The theme of that day?
Sure. We're going to be talking about just different perspectives. So we are going to be doing, one of the activities we're going to be doing is a dyslexia simulation with our faculty as well as a panel. And then we're also going to be looking at how to provide creating gender inclusive classrooms.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, public comment is now closed. I do not believe, are there any matters of old business to bring before the group? If not, we will move to the consent agenda, and I will request that a motion be made to accept the items on consent.
Motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right. And, yeah, right, there's no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Motion carries. We will move on to Finance and Facility Committee. Bill?
Hello. Okay, we actually did not have a meeting this month, slow month. But there were some, just a few updates on some of the many projects that are going on. The HVAC work at Stony Brook is almost finished, which is good news. The new boilers at Bear Tavern and the middle school are waiting for startup. And the big project for next summer, the Hopewell Elementary HVAC is in the planning stages right now. So that's all we had.
It's actually a little further than the planning stages. You just approved, actually, the
Well,
submission
right.
of the documents to the department. We're hoping to get out ahead of everybody else, as we did this year, and get favorable bids by going out very early and locking in contractors before the first of the year. So hopefully we'll get there. I also did want to mention that we did get a nice anonymous donation to our athletic programs for
Yes.
$4,000.
Yes, very nice. Thank you.
Any questions for Bill or Bob?
Communication system update.
Yeah, no problem. So right now, we have a majority of the actual items that came in. There are a few of kind of like the main component and the main hub actually in each of the main offices. We're still waiting on a couple of those parts. But we're looking to hopefully schedule the installation of that later this fall. So we have been working with the vendor. We have been in communication with them, and hopefully we have those items in shortly. So.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Bill. We will move on to personnel and Ms. Grillo.
Can I have a motion to move the items on the personnel agenda? Thank you. So we met just before this meeting tonight. Couple of things. So you'll see there's new staff on the agenda for approval. So this is including the new CSO officer at the high school. A few other things such as the anti-bullying specialists in each school. So hopefully you've had a chance to look at those. The ECAs are on there for approval. So these are advisors, lunch duty for this month. Once the MOA is ratified, however, the ECAs will need to be updated. That will happen next month once we ratify the contract. Speaking of which, the contract is on there for your ratification tonight for the HVEA for approval this evening. So that's exciting. Great work to the negotiations committee. And then last month, Tana had shown for your consideration the non-rep waiver, and that is on for approval this month. And we start the ESPA negotiations next week. Yes? Continuing negotiations next week.
So we'll need a roll call vote
Roll call,
for
please.
that MOA that was ratified by the union.
This is for the whole personnel agenda. Ms. Genovese,
Yes.
Ms. Grillo,
Yes.
Mr. Herbert,
Yes.
Mr. Mason,
Yes.
Mr. Resnick,
Yes.
Mr. Sawicki,
Yes.
Ms. Williams-Galliano,
Yes.
Ms. Linthorst.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you very much. Any other questions for Ms. Grillo or for Ms. Smith? Okay. We will say thank you and move on to Ed Program Committee.
Okay, so Miss Lois Baldwin presented, she's the supervisor of world languages, and she was showing some data that since the addition of Chinese in 2017, there's been challenges with staffing and enrollment. So we weren't able to hire a part-time Chinese teacher this year, so we had to collapse some of the classes and also not offer Chinese 6. So she proposed that through the evolution of this program, that there would be some programmatic changes due to these staffing shortages, and that moving forward over a 2 to 3 year time frame, that Chinese would be offered only at the high school, not at the middle school. We also had Miss Amy Baskin present. She's the new supervisor of ELA. She reviewed her goals for the ELA program, and she shared a draft of a rubric that the district can use when determining if a book should be added to our classroom library or adopted as a mentor text to teach reading and writing. The committee applied the tool to I Am Jazz, the children's book that was challenged at a recent board meeting during public comment. After a lengthy discussion, the committee determined that I Am Jazz will remain a part of our school libraries, but will not be adopted as a mentor text. We also made some adjustments to the rubric. We feel that I Am Jazz is valuable in terms of representation and providing diversity to our book stacks, but we do not think it's a strong enough literary work to use as a mentor text. So our philosophy is that parents and caregivers can share with teachers or media specialists that they do not want their children to check out certain books if they so choose. This is not the case for mentor text. Mentor text will be aligned to the NJ learning standards, and parents and caregivers cannot be able to opt out of those.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Politzis? All right. Thank you, Vicki. Community.
We do have an item.
Oh, we do? I'm sorry. That's right. Why am I not? 13. Thank you. Okay. So I will request a motion that the board approve the attached pre-K curriculum for 2022.
Well, it's all over curriculum.
Oh, it only says pre-K there. But down here it says pre-K through 12 curriculum. So again, request a motion that the board approve the attached pre-K through 12 curriculum for 22-23, please.
So moved.
All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, it's a roll call. I apologize, it's a roll call.
Ms. Grillo,
Yes.
Mr. Herbert,
Yes.
Mr. Mason,
Yes.
Mr. Resnick,
Yes.
Mr. Sawicki,
Yes.
Ms. Williams-Galliano,
Yes.
Ms. Genovese,
Yes.
Ms. Linthorst.
Yes. Thank you very much. Community Relations, Mr. Mason.
We met last week. My reports are always the easiest because Dr. Therese usually covers most of it, which I love before during her report. But a couple things. We're going to do bi-weekly report. Yeah, from Dr. Therese out to communities, to be on the lookout for that. We thought bi-weekly was better than a weekly report. Obviously, if there's something that is pressing or has to get Dr. Therese will put it out, but to have it every week, sometimes I feel it starts getting lost, and I think bi-weekly is a good. There's going to be a Hopewell Express next month. Be on the lookout for that. I look forward to it. I enjoy reading it. Hopefully you all do too. We're really looking to get the students more engaged. I know we're planning on. Do we have any doing the podcast?
So Dr. Geis is our media specialist at the high school, and he also teaches a class in creating media and podcasts. We have a beautiful podcast center there. So he's already on board.
Okay.
And he thinks our student representative should actually facilitate the conversation. So he's going to connect with her and interview our board members on how students can get involved. And then we can also set you up for the morning buzz as well.
That was the next I was going to say. We're planning on doing a morning buzz as well.
Yes.
And then we discussed we're going to be, which Dr. Therese covered, the mission statement. So the more input, the better. So be on the lookout. There's going to be stuff being sent out about that. And I think that covers it.
Any questions for Mr. Mason? SEL Committee, Ms. Williams-Galliano, please.
Okay, so all of our agenda items were covered in other areas, which I think is pretty cool. Mostly because it just really means that things are in action and things are in the works in the area of SEL. So that the areas to point out is, again, Character Strong is in being rolled out, and teachers are dabbling with kind of integrating that into their curriculum. And then underscoring what Dr. Therese mentioned is in our area of trying to support parents and students within the district through a grief counseling group. And I think it's really important to note that it's not only a group of like-minded people, but that there is a licensed clinician that's being identified for supporting and running that group. So really meaningful support in that way. And then the one thing that I did want to underscore, it was kind of sprinkled in a couple of different places, is that around mental health and really assessing what our needs are moving forward, we're looking to collect data, and that was also mentioned. But I think that there's some really important ways in which we're trying to incorporate it. Is there a message, for example, that could be added to the nurse's line when a parent calls their child in sick? And, destigmatizing means we can speak it and we can share it if that's something that the parent or child is able to do or wanting to comfortable doing, but also making sure that by sharing more, in addition to destigmatizing, we can offer really relevant resources to the needs of our families and our students. So in all the ways that we might collect de-identified data, we're looking to do that so that we can give real support, not just tacit support to the idea of mental health. That is the update for SEL.
Thank you. Any questions for Anita? Okay, thank you. And Mr. Sawicki, policy.
Okay, so can I have a motion to move the items up for first reading, please?
Motion.
Okay, so let's see, we have 4 items up for first reading. Policy 0143.2, high school representative to the Board of Education. Policy 1511, Board of Education website accessibility. Policy 8550, meal charges outstanding food service bill revised. And policy 5517, school district issued student ID cards. So I would say the main one that we wound up having discussion on was the meal charges. That has been an issue for many years. I'd say this: in terms of this revision, the good news is that the changes address some important issues, things like putting procedures in place to avoid lunch shaming, things like giving alternative meals, things like contact between the food service aides and the students, in public. So I think there are some good things in there. There's also some additional steps taken to help ensure that if a student, a family does need assistance, that, coordination to make sure that that is clearly available is made. It doesn't necessarily still address one of our most pervasive problems, which is just if somebody chooses not to pay and can afford it, it's difficult for us to do anything about it. So, essentially that's the update. So it's not perfect.
If it makes you feel any better, it's a nationwide epidemic.
Yeah. Okay. So again, the committee recommends approval of these for first reading. So this would just be a...
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Motion carries.
Okay. Can I have a motion to move the policies and regulations up for second reading, please?
Motion.
Second.
Okay. So here, these were approved for first reading last month. The there weren't any specific changes made. However, at our meeting in August, we did have a question with regard to the policy and regulation related to cooperation with law enforcement agencies. In particular, there was a clause stating, in all their instances, school authorities shall permit law enforcement authorities to determine whether or not a student's parent should be contacted. So there was a question from the public with regard to this. We asked Dr. Treese and our board attorney to investigate this, and the determination was that what's in the policy is correct. And Dr. Treese, I just asked you.
Yes, and also, our board attorney shared that the school does not have purview or jurisdiction over the police department, so we really have to comply to what they say. So if we put in there that, parents are going to be contacted, they can say no, and we have to listen to them. Generally, as I shared in our last board meeting, that is not how our local police force works with us. They will almost never talk to a kid without having the parent present or permission of the parent. But there may be cases that you can imagine where they don't want the parents to know because they could be, part of the investigation, or they don't want evidence destroyed, or whatever the case may be. So we have to defer to the police in that regard.
No, thank you. And any other questions from board members? Okay, so I'd request, a voice vote.
Roll call. Yep. Mr. Herbert?
Yes.
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Resnick?
Yes.
Mr. Sawicki?
Yes.
Ms. Williams-Galliano?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese? Ms. Grillo?
Yes.
Ms. Linthorst?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. And lastly, can I get a motion to move the policy and regulation up for abolishment?
Motion?
Second.
Okay, so these are the policy and regulation up for, which relate to school-sponsored publications. So we spoke about this in policy. We were like, and Dr. Treese informed us, the basic idea is there will be a replacement policy and regulation. So we asked, well, does it make sense to abolish before we have the new one in place? And basically, one, this is coming from the state and our policy service, and two, procedurally, in terms of when our school-sponsored publications do tend to go out, abolishing these at this point won't have a significant impact in that regard. So we'll have them in the next, we'll start going through the approvals in the next cycle. So again, we're recommending moving forward with the abolishment.
We need a motion in that regard, please?
Got it. Sweet.
Oh, we do?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Sawicki. Board calendars for October. I think we're good for September, right? So let's begin with,
President Linthorst, can I throw a plug in for the Sustainability and Climate Action Committee?
by all means.
Our first committee meeting will be next Thursday, the 22nd, from 4 to 5 p.m. So if you are interested, please reach out to me. Gladly send you that information, all right?
Absolutely. Thank you
you.
so much.
4 to 5 p.m.
We could have done that
Sustainability.
after. But, all right, so let's, Finance Committee, when would we like to meet?
The meeting's on the 17th, so we've got the week of the 10th. What is your pleasure? Sure. Good for me. 5 o'clock on the 12th.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Personnel will be on, what is our next, the 17th at 6:15? Good to go. Education Program Committee.
I'm likely to be traveling that week, so just schedule a time, and if I can make it,
You'll call in if you can.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the one day I will not be traveling.
That works for, that works for me.
Sure.
10, 10, and 10?
No, 10 at 4.
What time do you want it? You said at 4.
Yeah.
10, 10, and 4.
4.
And 4.
And we tend to do community relations around that, correct? Don't we usually try to do? Yeah, 5 to 6. Yep.
5 o'clock.
SEA? Oh, I'm sorry.
Are we open on the 10th?
Schools are closed. We are open.
The schools are closed.
We
but-
are. We're
But the
always.
offices,
SEL, I think do we not already have?
13. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And policy.
What would be your preference? Or is it, you want to do
We've been
like
doing Friday mornings. if that's what works for you.
Friday, the 14th?
14?
Well, you probably want to give her time, right? The 7th, because you got to.
Oh, yes, because you know we always end up having to ask for work.
Yeah.
So let's do
Okay.
the 7th. You always want to take something out, we're like, wait, can we take that out or can we add? I have my round table, so can we do it 8 o'clock?
Sure.
The
7th.
7th at 8
Does that work for
a.m.
you?
Dang. Yeah. All right. I will, yes, a motion to accept the calendars for September, October.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any items of new business to discuss this evening? Okay.
No.
So then we will move to our second public comment session. Members of the public are invited to address the board on any matter for a maximum of 3 minutes during this portion of the meeting. You are asked to state your name, address, and municipality. In response to your comments, the Board of Education may respond or direct the superintendent to do so. The board may also opt to take the matter up at a future meeting so that the matter is researched by the district administration. Public comment is now open.
Hi, my name's Heather Mott in Pennington. Hold on. Quick question. I'm so sorry, I can't see your name, but you're looking at me. Not you, Paulette, I know you.
Dr. Politzis?
Yes, next to Paulette. My question was, I just didn't hear and I apologize. I know the book used to be called something George, and now it's Jazz, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, those are two.
Okay, well, if that's what it is, I know you can't answer now. I just didn't hear the tail end of if you're going to incorporate that with the students, and I just wanted to know that for special ed students because I just think it needs to be handled differently with them. And also, Paulette, if you could just jump in if that's the case on the answer later when you answer me, and I have to. Sorry. And thank you, Anita, for bringing that up about mental health. I appreciated that, your comment.
Thank you, Mrs. Mott. Anyone else for public comment? Going once, going twice. Public comment is now closed. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to respond to the I Am Jazz? I keep closing too soon.
Yeah, so
tonight.
I Am Jazz is a book that's on, in our book stacks in the school, in the school libraries or on a teacher's bookshelf. It's not a mentor text, so the teacher won't be using it to teach lessons in the class. We didn't feel like it was a strong enough literary work for that. Parents can decide if they want their kids, the parents tell us all the time if they don't want them to check out a particular genre or topic out of our media center or our book stacks in our classrooms. And if a parent has a particular feeling about that, they certainly can reach out to the classroom teacher and say, I would rather my child not check out. And then the teacher will regulate that. And there can also be a note in the media center as well. And George is the same thing. George is a middle school book, but it's also just on the book stacks. It's not a mentor text. The other book, George, which is a similar LGBTQ theme.
All right. Public comment is now closed. I will request a motion to enter into executive session to discuss the following items: a special education litigation update, as well as a personnel matter. No action will be taken after the session has adjourned. Motion, please.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.